Stay ahead of the conversation in higher ed. Get early, ad-free access, and exclusive leadership content by supporting Elvin and Joe. $5.99 per month or $44.99 a year. You can also donate or gift a subscription at edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp at the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode. And this time I'm on the road, so I don't have any of my normal podcasting equipment. Example, no microphone, no camera, no lights, no soundboard, which probably disappoints me more than anyone else that I don't have my soundboard. But as they say, the show must go on. I've got an amazing, able-bodied president with me today who has to talk about the great work he's doing at his institution. And so there is just no way to not do this podcast. So we'll clean up the audio for you as we move along, and maybe you'll hear me do some in-episode live sound effects from my own mouth, although that would be annoying, so I'll try to limit that. I want to I want to remind everybody on two things that we continually will remind you. Number one, and importantly, we've taken a piece of our website and we've started publishing articles that our colleagues across higher education write. It's called EdUp Editorials. And so perhaps you have something to say about your university, some innovation that's taking place, something that you want the rest of the world to know about. EdUp Editorials gives you an opportunity to get those articles published, and we push it out to our worldwide audience, get you the link, share it through LinkedIn. It's another opportunity and way for you to highlight your institution, and we provide that as a service to our colleagues across higher education. So take us up on it. And then secondly, just to remember that we do have, as you know, at the EdUp Experience, a conference coming up. If you hear this episode, of course, Elvin Freitas, the co-founder, tells me never to put a date on these episodes, but we are starting and hosting the first ever Higher Education Podcasting Conference on July 12th, 2025, on the campus of the University of Illinois, Chicago. Higher Ed PodCon will be taking place, a one-day conference dedicated to podcasting and higher education. And we will hopefully see you there. We have registration still coming in. We've got sponsors still coming in. It's never been done before, and the EdUp Experience is leading that effort. All right, so that's enough about enough selfless promotion for me. Now I'm going to turn over to my guest, who's going to do a ton of that for himself and his institution. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me today Dr. Vernon Harper Jr. He's president at Cal State Bakersfield. Vernon, how are you?
Doing great today. Thanks for having me on the podcast, Joe.
Well, you know what typically happens, just so you know, is that I would hit my applause button right now.
Okay.
And as I say your name, there would be an applause happening. So see, I can't give you the full experience, but I'm cheering for you right now. So, you know, we always like to level set with the audience. Cal State Bakersfield, you know, tell us a little bit about the institution. Who do you serve? How do you serve them?
Well, we're proud to be, a member of the California State University and the Southern San Joaquin Valley. So for those folks who are on a national audience or international, most I would believe are familiar with California, and most are familiar with the coastal cities in California: Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, San Jose, San Francisco. And then inland of that is in one of the largest valleys in the United States, the San Joaquin Valley. And we're at the southern tip of that, about 110 miles north of Los Angeles, over a very, very large mountain range. And so we sit at the bottom of that in one of the most important agricultural regions in the United States. The San Joaquin Valley produces 25% of the food in the United States. So everyone in the United States has likely experienced either a carrot or an almond or agricultural product from our region. We're extraordinarily proud of that. And we're also proud of the fact that we produce the majority of California's energy, both renewable and non-renewable, in our region. Our institution is a growing institution as the San Joaquin Valley has been growing. We're about 10,500 students. Our all-time high was 11,000 right before the pandemic, and we're charging back up to that number. We're a proud Hispanic-serving institution, about 65% Latino. and majority female with a variety of academic programs. We're a D1 athletic program. We're proud of our runners. They carry our logo all across the country, and proud of our men's, women's basketball teams and baseball teams and wrestling. So we're very, very integrated in our community. We like to think of ourselves as Kern County's university, which is our county or our service areas, predominantly Kern County. About 80% of our students come from Kern County, which is a region of about 950,000 people. So it's a pretty large area, and we service that area with a variety of academic programs, and we want to ensure that we're lifting up each and every member of our community, as well as each and every one of our families.
So much great information there. By the way, how nice is it to be a stone's throw away from record enrollment? I mean, 500 students. I mean, I don't know if you call that a stone's throw or softball or basketball, but it's within striking distance to say, hey, we're making a comeback. We could see that this distance is closing. That means that innovation is taking place. It means that higher ed is resonating with students, even though some of the narrative out there says that it's not resonating with students. So maybe there's proof in the pudding, so to speak, that higher ed has value and people are still wanting to experience it. What do you make of that number, and how have you come back, so to speak?
Well, I'll start with the circumstance that I deal with as a higher education leader, which is what you referenced. I'll sit across to the table about half an hour or so. I'll be sitting across from a table from so for some individuals who are making investments into the institution, individuals who care about the institutions, our partners. And you are correct that we do, as many higher education leaders do, battle the national headlines and international headlines as they relate to higher education. And I think the lesson for all higher education leaders is to understand your service area, the market that you exist in, and make sure that you're fulfilling the promise, the brand promise, that you bring to that particular space. And we're doing that here in Bakersfield, and doing that in Kern County. We are deeply integrated in this community. Practically every member of our team is on a local board. That's a requirement. We donate into our community. We make sure that we're out. We have a pre-admit program that admits practically every student in this region as young as 13 years old, give them pre-admission to the institution. So I think the lesson for higher education is to make sure that you know the people that you serve, and that you're in the spaces and create enough value that they see that matriculating at the institution is going to elevate the trajectory of our lives. We do that here in Kern County. And so I think it's a lesson for everyone.
Yeah, it is. You're so right. And I think the bigger lesson is that we have to speak about what we do. We need to talk about these things. I think for a long time, higher ed, I don't know if we took for granted the great work that we do, or somehow didn't communicate it to the public as um, passionately as we needed to. And therefore, we're in the state where we need to do that again. We need to tell the public, hey, look, especially now, I think, here's the great work we do in higher education. Here's how generational wealth is created. Here's what a degree in higher education does for a student from a lower economic background, or any background for that matter, and what that means for them economically in the long run, and what it means to a region economically. And when you come back and you say we're Kern County's university, there's a regional impact to a statement like that, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. It makes it very, very explicit. Our raison d'etre, the reason that we exist, is for the students of this region. And so, and that's important for our institution. Institutions, even within the CSU, operate in larger markets, but it's really about understanding the market and the students that you serve, and making sure that you're not just present, but you're creating a type of value that the students and the families that want to matriculate at your institution understand that and are attracted to that. And so you should be having those dialogues consistently with your leadership team, understanding your value proposition relative to the cost of matriculation. So we concentrate a lot on
How do you get that direct impact from the students? Is there anything you guys do that's unique to say, hey, we're looking at this regional impact. We have the triangle, right? The student, the institution, and the business. The local business, especially in the region you're talking about, I'm sure you have a ton of businesses that are interested in producing graduates. We want students with X or Y or Z. the institution says, hey, we could do this. We need to update the curriculum or create new curriculum that has X, Y, or Z in it. That sort of holy trinity, as it were, is an important part of economic development. How do you, or what do you do to make sure that you've got that feedback loop going?
Well, I'm going to start with what we don't do well in terms of a sector of higher education, and we're
Yeah.
always pressing to do it better on our campus as well. And that is the nimbleness that you allude to and describe, whether that's curricular, how we're preparing students for the workplace, our ability to keep up with technology, of course, artificial intelligence, the whole notion of superintelligence in the future. All of those pieces, typically higher education by design, and that's an important feature of the design,
Hmm.
that higher education universities are a pillar, an institution in the United States, a foundational for the development of innovation and wealth and creation of education and uh, civic leadership in our country. So universities change slowly for a reason, and there is a balance there, especially as it relates to our ability to produce students and workers for the workforce that we have to manage. One of the things that we do at Bakersfield is that we require all of our colleges, and we're organized by colleges, to have a committee or a board that advises the faculty within that college. And so that's how we get that really, really quick feedback in, and respecting that each college has a curriculum committee that's composed of faculty, and the way that the curriculum change was always going to be guided by faculty. That's something that's fundamental to the university. Um, However, getting that information to the places where those curricular decisions made are critical. And so we're proud of our ability to create programs and to make curricular innovation so that when students step off this campus, they're ready to work from day one.
How do you, as a leader, you know, this is not an uncommon concept that by design, higher education was was moving slow, or is designed to move with maybe in a methodical nature. And sometimes, especially now, as we see technologies challenge us as humans and our operations for speed, right? Because I always talk, I write a lot about this, that the consumers now, we all, consumers, and I mean just general consumers, not just students, we all as consumers are engineered to expect some level of speed now. And I talk about, the skip intro button on your favorite Netflix show, or the fact that if your Uber takes 10 minutes, you can go back out and refresh it. Or, you can use a Google Maps instead of actually buying an actual map, right? And you could go to the same place 100 times and never know how to actually get there because you depend so much on the electronic map. So we're designed for this convenience and speed. And now as consumers, we demand that. And as students, we're starting to see that demand happen more often now, where students are expecting maybe a evolved sense of service from the university. And as a university, we have to maintain the balance of curricular rigor with um, better service. I think maybe I'm not putting it the right way. I think you understand what I'm saying, though. So there's a balance that has to happen in terms of speed of delivery, accuracy of delivery, with making sure that we protect the whole concept of teaching and learning. It's not an easy thing to do right now with technology knocking it at our door the way it is.
I think the challenge of all management is able to hold competing interests in balance.
Mm.
And so that's the requirement of all leaders and managers. And so the balance that you're talking about is an important one. On the one hand, as I referenced, the stability of higher education, of education overall, is foundational to what we do as a society, to have an educated and to be able to have civil discourse, to be able to understand the function role of government, to understand the way our government acts both in this country and outside of this country, and to be able to critically think about that. That crosses generations. Those skills, that requirement, and it's foundational to our democracy. And so when we say that higher education is slow in changing, those things should be stable. And so when people approach the university, they appreciate that stability. However, at the same time, as managers, our ability to create functions, processes, and workflows within the university, so that when someone applies to the university, that they're getting a response to their application within 72 hours. or when they're trying to enroll in a class, they not only see that class, but they see the entire curriculum pathway for that leads throughout their degree, and that class is going to be there in 2 terms when they get to that point, and they're expected to graduate on time within 4.3 years. That's the type of service that we need to have, and that we're always trying to promulgate here at the institution, so that when the student and the family interfaces with the university, they have that similar sort of speed up service. So a good leader is able to see that importance of stability, the pieces that we were going to keep, and our ability, then our desire and responsibility to be a foundational to the community, but also having service components that move just as fast as Amazon.
Yeah, it's good, right? When I think you're so right. You got to pull those things apart and look at them independently, or else it becomes very conflated. Because it's easy for somebody maybe who doesn't want to change to say, well, we can't do that. If we're going to improve service, we can't use a skip intro button on our curriculum and the student gets a degree faster. Well, no, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is everything else that surrounds that can be pulled apart and moved faster to serve a consumer who's demanding speed. I mean, students. I mean, if you have a young student today and you look at a cell phone in their hand and what they're able to do, but everything is within that device, right? And has to be readily available, and that's the expectation. True leadership, I think, to your point, is saying, how do we deliver and protect the piece that needs protection? But this part right here that we thought needs to be protected really doesn't. We just need to reimagine a new way to work the workflow to make sure that it hits the student in a different way, a way that they expect, not the way that we expect. And that's been a change, I think, for higher ed. We've had leverage for so long. If you look at the history, there used to be, look to the left, look to the right, and 2 of the 3 of you aren't going to make it anymore.
We
Now
don't
we're
do that.
talking right. Now we're talking about access. How do we educate a population? How do we make it easy for them to experience, to not look at higher education as this something they can't touch, but something that is within reach? And that is a new way of communicating and delivering, isn't it?
Yeah, I try to make this point efficiently. Um, One of the things that we're proud of recently, so the Carnegie Foundation just, developed a new category for institution called Opportunity Universities. And I'll try to, even though we're not able to see one another, this is audio only. I'll try to describe it very, very quickly, which is the whole notion that if you chart, the ability of an institution to produce, high incomes, as well as how accessible that institution is. So on a typical chart, you'll see very, very low access, say an institution that only accepts a few students, and the students have, really, really successful, rewarding, high earning careers. And then you'll have on that same sort of chart the notion that institutions can have very, very high access, that everyone can access them. CSU Bakersfield is one of the few institutions in the country that has high access and high income. So
Congratulations.
we're extremely proud of that. And we're proud that the Carnegie Foundation is starting to recognize institutions that do that work. To the last part of the point, organizations to get to this point, just as Bakersfield has, needs to be able to learn organization. So organizational learning is critical, not just to management, but how the organization processes and improves. And one of the pieces in which we learned as an organization most was in the pandemic, to the point that you raise about innovation, as well as the ability for institutions to learn how to use technology to advance not just their service areas, but also the curriculum. We learned that when we went predominantly online through the pandemic, we're predominantly a face-to-face institution. We were forced to go 95% virtual for the first time in our history. And we come back, and now we're sitting in an area around 25% of our courses are hybridized or online, and
Hmm.
75% face-to-face. And we will always be and think of ourselves as a face-to-face institution. But what we learned is the fact that students love or really learn best in a mix of predominantly face-to-face with a hybrid component attached to it. So that gives them the flexibility at times to be in different spaces and continue their instruction, continue their march towards the graduation stage. So higher education institutions need to really, really understand how they can learn, how they can take what the our information-based technological society can provide for us, integrate that into what we're doing, and make it better for students.
One of the things that is really important to me, and I'm guessing, what's pretty well, I'm pretty certain that it's important to you, is this idea of transfer credit, particularly as we looked at transfer credit for our servicemen and women. You served in the Army. Thank you for your service. And I've talked to a lot of presidents, many of which have served. And, transfer credit, and in California is really innovative with the transfer credit policies that they have. But being able to have, think about a PLA or a CPL policy. When you think about those policies in higher ed and you're not familiar and you've not gone through and tried to write one or understand one, they read like tax code from some universities. And then you take a student, who maybe you're a medic in the military and you've seen some kind of wartime action, and you come back and you get no credit for a medical program of some kind. And you go, this doesn't make sense. We need to make sure this makes sense. Do you think that transfer credit policies, transfer credit pathways, PLA and CPL policies are where they should be today? Or do you think there's still room for improvement?
Support the podcast trusted by higher ed leaders. Get early, ad-free access, and exclusive leadership content by supporting Elvin and Joe for only $5.99 a month or $44.99 a year. You can also donate or gift a subscription at edupexperience.com. That's edupexperience.com.
Well, there's absolutely room for improvement, especially given the concern with higher education that's articulated in those national headlines that I mentioned. I think it is an act of good faith for universities to understand that there are a variety of ways in which to generate knowledge, especially in our society today. It's incumbent upon us to develop the systems and use the systems that currently exist. The American Council of Education, prior learning assessment, there are already models, very well-established models for us to be able to assess what an individual brings to the table when they begin their matriculation and provide them with credit for that, not just in the military, but our individuals who have learned and have a considerable amount of work experience, whether they've had prior work experience, and how do we assess that, give them credit for that. This shortens time to degree, what you're articulating, allows for individuals to feel like they're being respected by the institution, to not have the ivory tower mentality and just be focused on getting students to the graduation stage so they can become productive workers and elevate their families.
Yeah, so well said. And it's something that continues to be on everyone's radar. And you think about how something like artificial intelligence could speed up. When we talk about speed, how could it speed up transfer credit evals or an understanding of prior learning experiences and communicate that in a way that's easy for a university to understand? That's that speed of service. I want to transition to, I think, a topic that we're all navigating through. We see a lot of administrative changes in our regulatory environment, some uncertainties that are hitting us as leaders. And, at the risk, I try not to go political at all on this podcast because there's so many varying views. But what I can tell you is that as a leader right now, and you know this, there's a balance between that has to be sort of struck between what's happening around me politically, what's happening around me from a regulatory perspective, how that's affecting me as a person, one way or another, these personal feelings I'm bringing to the workplace, and is it disrupting my job to the point where I'm not focusing on the student? Am I losing focus? Now, as a college president, you're sitting there managing all of these perspectives, all of this information coming in, and you still got this core mission of serving students. How are you keeping everybody's eye on the ball, so to speak, given so much noise?
Oh, so that has to be reinforced in every senior leader meeting. And on our campus, we refer to it as cabinet, but it's also important that those leaders at the senior leadership table mirror that behavior and that sense of um, keeping your eye on the ball all the way through our other leadership teams for which they are a part of. And so you're right. There's a cloud of so many things happening, and in terms of the legislative landscape is changing, the budgetary landscape is changing. However, as you mentioned, so we just completed commencement week about a week or so ago. 30 about 3,000 students crossed the stage. I shook about 1,500 hands. My hand is still tired, but happy to hear it. And so I think when you get your team to focus on the moments that really, really matter for families, for our students, like commencement, like our credential ceremony, like our nursing pinning ceremony, those moments, and we're sending individuals out to help lead, to care for people, to grow other students' lives, to be innovative, to be successful in finance, to be successful in STEM, that grounds us. And I think as a senior leader, as the leader of the cabinet, always making sure that the team is grounded in those things, not overly focused. I mean, we're going to be always monitoring the landscape. We wouldn't be good leaders unless we were monitoring what's happening, understanding the implications for the California State University, for which we have an amazing board, a remarkable chancellor that is able to help navigate those waters with us, and then take that external assessment and then be able to say, all right, so this is what we have to do relative to what we see on the horizon, but never take our eyes off on what we're here to do, which is get students to the stage.
Do you have do you give us some pull the rug out, give us a look under the hood? Do you meet with your leadership team on the regulatory landscape daily, weekly, and say, is there contingency plannings, or how would this affect us if this happens, and how do we prepare for it? To where you're, if if then you have this option, or if then you have that option, or do you not go too deep into it till it happens?
Oh, good question. So our cabinet meets every Monday at 9 a.m. So that's weekly. We'll do that um, every week of the year unless there's an interruption. I think it's critical for us to continually meet, talk, create a culture of leadership on our team. So that's really, really critical. We will do scenario analysis. And when we get to a point, and I've always been a decision tree guy. So, what's the probability of this particular thing happening? What's the probability of A happening? What's the probability of B happening? What's the probability of C happening? Okay, so if it's a low probability event, let's wait, get more information. If it's a medium to high probability event, let's put some leadership on it, just do some scenarios, bring it back next week and see what we have. And so be very methodical. I've always been, and that served me as a leader. And I think for those who work with you and report to you, really makes them seem that you're taking care, diligence, and control of what you can. There's always be things that you can't control. There's always be moments where things happen unexpectedly, but practicing uh, being methodical is something that helps when things happen in an unexpected way.
I think that's good hygiene, right? It's good management and leadership hygiene to say, let's scenario plan for these things. If this happens, then here's how we react. Knowing those things in advance, or at least talking about them in advance, prepares you for what might happen. And I think higher, and you see schools close and schools in financial trouble, and scenario planning is one of those areas that I think as an industry we haven't had enough. We haven't put the fine point on it, and how important that scenario planning is from a business perspective. We're running an institution that has many business properties. That scenario planning is so critical from a financial perspective, from a funding perspective. I think that's good hygiene.
Yeah, I mean, my prior role to this was a provost. I've been an academic all of my career, proud to have served in higher education for many years. Um, wouldn't have chose anything else to do with my life. In my mind, what I say to the campus, what I say to our faculty, staff, and students is that the university is not a business, but we need to operate on business principles.
Mhm.
And so we need to a sustainable enterprise. We need to not run We need to eliminate structural deficits. We need to make very, very careful decisions. And most importantly, when I'm talking to individuals who are climbing the ladder of higher education or climbing the ladder in business or in entrepreneurship, stare at the trade-offs,
Mm.
stare at them, right? Come to understand the world, for which the one that I was raised in, requires to make trade-offs in order to be successful. And so when you stare at those trade-offs, you understand that when you have to make a decision where one thing's up goes up, one thing increases and something else decreases, you understand that that is a discipline, and universities, like businesses, like all organizations, need to have a considerable measure of discipline.
That is such good advice. And I think the trade-off, specifically that word, is so important to sit with, because every decision we make in higher education should have some kind of trade-off somewhere, or else you will begin to run deficits, right? If you never give up something to have something, you just keep adding, and that's where we're all things to all people. You can't be all things to all people sentence comes from, or cliche, and we've historically not been good at higher ed, as historically as an industry, not traded off maybe as much as it has needed to remain sustainable. And so those sustainable futures, it's like, hey, look, if this isn't going to have the benefit immediately or in midterm, we need to push that off. We need to take those resources and we need to move those resources to this. Yeah, we're going to have to make this really hard trade-off. But you're right. You have to stare at that trade-off and you have to understand and be okay with it, because you can't have everything and have a sustainable business all the time, right?
Well, I mean, if you're a leader of any organization, but we're in the context of talking about higher education and recognition of finite resources, regardless of the level of university for which you're operating, whether you're an independent college or university, you're a state-supported public institution, you're a community college, your resources are bounded.
Mm.
And so, and you have a mission to pursue. And every one of the sectors in which levels that I described all seek to serve their communities, to get students to the stage and for them to go on and be successful. That is the reason that universities exist. In order to do that in a bounded resource landscape, those bounds or vary. Some have larger bounds, some are smaller, but they exist. And to believe that there's infinite resources to support all of the activities isn't rational or practical. So you can have pockets of that thinking in an organization, but around the leadership table, I wouldn't recommend it.
Mhm. Good advice. One thing that you said, I'm going to take a left turn on you. You were talking about commencement, which, by the way, what a really, really good time amidst all the disruption to have commencement hit.
Mhm.
Everything's sort of happening, and it's like, okay, this is why we do what we do, to remind ourselves. This is why we do what we do, because that noise can make us lose focus. So being able to talk to leaders and hear, hey, I just had commencement, 3,000 students walked across the stage. I mean, that's what it's all about. You mentioned a credential ceremony, and I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. I'd like to know more about what that is, and why you have one, who it's for, and what's the result.
Oh, the credentials is to credential our students in California to teach in K through 12 education requires a credential. We're proud of our residency programs, which allow students to practice their skills to become future teachers at schools all across this region. So we have one of the best residency programs in the state, and we're just extremely proud of it. And so we're proud of every student that goes through the credential process to receive their credential to become a K through 12 teacher here in California. Laws differ in different states. So
Yep.
when people are listening in different states, they may not have an analogous structure. But here in California, we are so proud of our students. And so we have a very, very specific ceremony. It was one of our largest attended graduation celebrations. We have lots of graduation celebrations. And so I would say our arena was packed. It's about 15,000 people. So I would say there are about 13,000 people to celebrate our credential students walking across the stage and help elevate young people all across the state.
Shout out to teachers, man. I mean, boy, oh boy, teachers are everything. And I always say we got to do more to pay teachers more. And, it's just great to see students going into teaching still and wanting to teach, and how important that is. If you have kids, you know how important teachers are. Let me just tell you that. Um,
No doubt about it.
Speaking of credentialing, you also have Doctor of Nursing. Did you have Doctor of Nursing students either going in or coming out this coming fall?
Oh, thank you for the segue. So we're proud of our DNP program. The first cohort will enter in the fall of this year. It's taken some amount of time for us to get to this point. DNPs, and again, this differs by state,
Yep.
how this, whether in terms of their licensing. But we have a real significant physician shortage here in the San Joaquin Valley. We want to always work to retain medical health professionals. And so the DNP program is going to allow us to produce doctors of nursing practice that can help support fighting disease and helping people stay healthy. So it's a really, really important program for those who are currently have nursing degrees, for us to advance in this field and advance their careers and become chief nurses at hospitals. And so we're very, very proud of that program.
And I'll be remiss if I didn't highlight this, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think through the Carnegie classifications, you also were designated a research university. Um, is that correct?
That
I
is
think that's right.
correct. That is
And
correct.
and speaking of research, you've got something called the Energy Innovation Building coming. Tell us about this initiative and what the impact will be to the region.
Absolutely. So we're proud of our STEM programs. Our engineering program is about 15 years old. We want to move into different spaces of engineering. We currently have electrical and computer science. And so we want to move into a space where we're have mechanical engineering, a more focus on energy as it relates to other types of engineering that support the energy production here in the region. The Energy Innovation Building allows me to thank the state of California, Governor Newsom, for investing about $83 million into the campus to build this facility, for which we will break ground in the fall. Will allow us to expand and almost double the number of engineers that we produce here at the institution, add faculty in those spaces, and create space on campus as we to be able to fill out with other activities as we go forward. But that building's going to break ground in the fall. We expect it to open in 2027 for our first students, and we're super proud of that investment in our campus.
So much going on, especially as you look at agriculture and energy, where you sort of live in that agriculture energy area, and how technology, people think about artificial intelligence and they don't think about agriculture. But I think agriculture is one of the areas where AI is going to become a real thing. And you're in the perfect area to see that happen. I had no idea that 25% of the food was created in that region. I don't think any of us realize that.
No, yes, yes, yes. So every time you go to the supermarket, just know that 1 out of 4, especially produce products, that you pick up comes from this region. We're critical to the food security of the United States. And everyone in this region knows that. We're very, very proud of that. It's good to be able to say that nationally and internationally. We're proud of the work we do. We're proud of the businesses that are here that supports the institution. I won't start naming them because they will hear this and
You'll say, what about me if you
what
forget?
about me?
Yeah.
Well, we're so proud of all of you. Thank you for supporting the institution, and always want to thank everyone that works out in the fields to make sure that everyone in this country has food on the table.
Amazing. We always like to end these podcasts with the same 2 questions. The first one's not really a question, but I want to give you an opportunity to open it up for us. What else do you want to say about CSU Bakersfield? Maybe that we didn't talk about, anything that's just on your mind. You get an open mic. And when you're done with that one, tell us what you see for the future of higher education.
Well, I'm going to talk about the people of Bakersfield and in Kern County. We relocated here. My wife, Dr. Erica Harper, who is the director of the counseling psychology program here at the university. So we're a dual couple at the university. Very, very proud of that. We relocated here with our 3 children 9 years ago. We thought it was going to be a step in our career. It became the focus of our careers. And so the people of this region are earnest, hardworking, committed to looking after one another, and to be an institution that supports them is the honor of our professional careers. I wouldn't want to be doing this anywhere else with anyone else than the great people of Bakersfield. And it's one of the fastest growing places in California. We're proud of that. You're going to hear more from us soon as our institution. We're now according to U.S. News, one of the top 30 public institutions in this region, the West region. We're going to keep climbing, and we have a responsibility to do that, to make the trade-offs we referenced earlier, so that those young children, sitting in fifth grade, know that the institution's there for them, and we're built and designed for them. So we're very, very proud of that. As for the future of higher education, even though the current state is swirling, I have an interest in history, of course, being an academic, and the United States has had many swirling moments
You
over
could
the
say
course.
that.
Yes. And so just be steady throughout. Stay focused on your students, stay focused on your mission, stay focused on your market and the people that you're trying to serve, and make sure you keep telling that story to the people that you're trying to serve. They will focus more on that than anything that will be, clickbait on TikTok. So it is more important what you say to people and what you actually do than what happens in certain spaces. So be steady. That would be my words to all of my friends in higher education. Be steady.
I love it, and tell that story. That's what we want to do here at the EdUp Experience, and why it was an honor to have you with us today, Vernon. We really appreciate it. And we hope you had a good time sort of opening it up a little bit on what's going on at CSU Bakersfield. Any last words, any final things you want to say?
Go Runners.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Vernon Harper Jr., he's the president at CSU Bakersfield. And although I don't have all my equipment, I can tell you there's a standing ovation over here for him. Ladies and gentlemen, you just EdUp.
If you're finding value in these conversations, consider supporting Elvin and Joe. As a supporter, you'll get early ad-free access, plus exclusive leadership-focused content. It's only $5.99 a month or $44.99 a year. You can also donate or even gift a subscription to a colleague at edupexperience.com. That's edupexperience.com.